Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another round with McD Guitars. We are on our new journey, part 3 today, and we're going to keep building on. As you noticed in the beginning there, that was just a nice fun picture of some weekend adventuring over here. And if you had a sharp eye in that second picture of me sizing up the back of our guitar, would have noticed something interesting in the frame. But we'll get into that. Not a whole lot to talk about in introduction-wise today. We know what we're doing, and we're going to keep moving forward. So let's continue on with our new journey and build Eric a really sweet hollow body. All right, let's check it out.
Well, rightfully so. My wife is always making fun of me for standing there and staring at a pile of wood. But this time I'm really glad I did because I just looked at this piece of wood and man, it occurred to me that if there was some way I could cut this out with a coping saw, I would have a nice Koa hollow body slab. So hey, did a little searching, and that 14-inch coping saw over there is definitely as unwieldy as it looks. It was pretty funny, even just trying to tighten the blade on this guy. But we start to get it worked out, and it's going to work. We constantly finding new ways to save things and not making any exterior cuts from the bandsaw. Boy, I think we could see a scroll saw in our future, huh? That is for sure. So, as we're going here, you can see kind of cutting forward there, and then a lot of this I'm cutting backwards towards myself, which I think we can see right here start. And boy, that is not fun. It was kind of awkward, and it was the only option I had. And it works out. It was really interesting, I mean, when you're putting in this much handwork, it's definitely a little tiring. It was funny what I noticed, when I was sawing forward away from myself, having the blade cut down was really easy. And then, cutting towards myself like this, putting the cut up really made it easy. So, learned something new today. It was pretty interesting. There was a point between there on the coming down that side. I was like, what am I doing here? This is crazy. And once I turned that corner and started cutting forward again, I was so happy. I had a straight cut shot all the way, most of the way around the back of the guitar, and then was able to just dip up from the horn there and come back and meet it. And boom, we are free. Pretty stoked I thought of that. So, yeah, one more blank for the future. All right, well, this is something we talked about. We got to get this done, so let's go ahead and get ourselves a truss rod routed. I've just really come to terms with taking really shallow passes and doing a whole bunch of them. There's just no need to take deep cuts. I mean, if you're going through mahogany, it's not the end of the world, but once you step your neck up to anything else, it's good to slow that thing down. As you can see there, that is some extremely straight grain on our neck blank here, and that grain runs all the way the length of the neck, just like that. So I'm a big proponent of two-piece necks. I really like gluing the neck, cutting the neck in half, gluing it together, having that opposing grain, which really to me adds strength. I don't mind routing on the middle joint of that wood or anything to that effect. Normally, if I did a one piece like this, I would think about putting some carbon fiber in there. I've done it in the past, but this neck is so strong and that grain is so good that I think we're going to be just fine. I think this is going to be, it'll show its strength in the long run. Thinking about gouging out the end of that truss rod slot and getting some access really is getting me excited about some headstock veneer. Here we are. Let's go ahead and make a center block. We can just go ahead and glue these guys up, and we'll cut ourselves a square out later in time. At least we know we have it there and it's ready to go. Should be pretty good. And all right, we are we are ready. Let's make this guy one piece. At least these two pieces, anyways. I did have to go back and do some final sanding on the maple. I didn't film that in. It was just a slight bump on one of the seams, and where one of the rosewood pieces tied into the neck was needed a little touch up too. So we went ahead and did that, made sure everything's level, and now we're ready to go. The last two of these I did was walnut, and boy, they really wanted to squirm. This maple did fight me a little, but it wasn't half as bad as working with the walnut. The structural rigidity of this maple frame was a lot nicer to deal with, that's for sure. It was a little cooler day today too, so I had a little more time to work with everything. Really am enjoying these last couple days of even being able to work outside, so be back into the workshop soon. But yeah, no, that's not good enough. Let's go get some big ones. Yeah, I was kind of thinking, man, we won't need those clamps, but hey, I'll get them all out anyways, right? And yeah, our joint came out really well. We'll start to whittle it down to shape here, and yeah, it never gets less satisfying, yeah, I mean, I've definitely never been against like CNC machines or any kind of more efficient ways of production, but this is exciting to me. Like, it feels artistic, and luckily there's not just this giant demand for me to pump out guitars, so I think I'll continue to do things this way from here on out, because every one of these guitars I'm doing is just slightly different. It's a little different in shape and size. Woohoo, look at that. We went ahead and did a little OT today, and let's join up that last Koa blank real quick, and we'll just put it away for good storage. It is the way we flip this up. Ooh, looks really good right there. All right, well, here we are back in the thinking room, and we've got some more figuring to do today. I want to start out and go ahead and little addendum from last episode we didn't really get into is could have explained that we are using a 10-degree headstock angle, which is my favorite. And I kind of thought about it, it's after I put that headstock veneer on there the way I do, probably is dragging it down to 9 or 8. So factor that into as far as saving a little wood. But yeah, we're probably going to use a 25-inch scale on this. Eric was begging me for as big as frets as he can possibly get. He seems to think he has big fingers. So I was thinking, man, I could just use a 10-inch radius like I like, and maybe I'll kick it out to 25.5 for him. We'll see. We got a little ways to make that decision, so we could talk about it and see what we want to do. But yeah, most of the 25.5-inch scale length guitars are kind of a turnoff to me because they have the Fender style fretboard radius and just a little too round for me. So I was like, yeah, man, we just keep it at 10-inch and kick it out, and I think that could be a good thing to do. But anyways, we were back to the body here. We saw we got some work done. And yeah, I had no qualms whatsoever to glue this middle to the back. I was feeling comfortable with everything we need to do, and we're gonna move forward from here. But from here, we have some really serious decisions that we need to ponder. I'm definitely gonna do our center block first. It's just a good idea, I think. We'll get that lined out, and I was thinking about just gluing it on, but I will go ahead and throw 2 pins in it. I won't go too deep, but we'll just throw 2 little wooden dowel pins in there and save ourselves some hassle of that thing squirming around when we glue it. But besides the center block, I also am not going to mind when we do some weight relief on the inside of this guitar. You can see we didn't route this one, and we didn't really need to. Everything is really light. So really, we're just going to relieve the inside of this guitar for a look, and you peer in that F hole, you want to see some nice rounded wood in there. So
we definitely will make it look nice. Besides those two, we have some serious decisions to make. Everything I'm doing on this is kind of backwards from what I've done before because we have such a thin top. And we are going to have to route through all three pieces of our wood to get our neck to fit. Normally, you can glue the top to the middle and route out your neck and pick up cavities right off the bat. Bam, you still got two pieces and you can do any kind of work you want. But we don't have that luxury this time. We have some things to think about, you know. Obviously, I'll want to carve the back before I put the top on because I can get really good thickness measurements while I'm doing it. At the same point, once we carve the back, it's going to be a little more not time consuming. It's going to be a little harder to clamp this guy down flat for the routing of the neck pocket and such. Just going to put some serious pressure on everything. So we're just going to have to deal with it and clamp this guy down extra tight on some foam or something so it doesn't wiggle. Because I don't want to carve the back after I put the top on. That's the decision we've made here. So we are going to do center block. We had to think about the control cavity also. Generally, if I'm going to do an actual control cavity, I'd like to get that out of the way before I do any inside carving. Well, I thought, man, that might be cool on this. We could shim our template, route that control cavity at an angle, and use a piece of this thin camphor burl that would work out with our carve. Then I can't do that. We'd be chunking out a huge part of the coolest amount of our koa here, so we don't want to do that. So no control cavity here. So I am going to continue on with the side style cavity that I've been doing on the last couple. And I'm kind of thinking outside the box here this time. I do have some more of those side cavity plastic pieces from PRS, and I did some measuring. They're only 25 mil thick, so we could still just sneak it in here and use that. But I thought, let's get inching right. Kind of on the fence. I think I may take a piece of this camphor burl and try to bend it. Just build a homemade steam bender. I got a really nice heat gun. And see if we can bend a piece of this camphor burl to make a control cavity cover on our side. That'd be pretty cool. I was kind of questioning its durability for putting the screws through it, but I think if we're careful, we can make that happen. So that's going to be our goal now, to make ourselves a camphor burl side cavity cover. And that knocks off any of the last thoughts we have of doing our inside carve. Then we will do our outside carve, join the top, and do some cavities. So I guess we can start getting to that stuff. It's pretty funny. I dug through, and once I started doing some measuring out, I went through and book match. I just joined some of those offcuts of maple to make a center block, and I chose a different one. So I actually found a chunk from the top neck area of one of the ES335 blanks. That's going to give us a bigger square. And so we did a little bit of work for nothing there, but maybe that piece of wood will come in handy someday. So I think that's about all the figuring we need to do for now. That'll give us a good way to get a lot of work done. But while that's happening, I want to get the headstock veneer on. Going to do it a little different this time, and I think it's going to come out a little better. I always kind of put my headstock veneer on later in the build, and this time I'm going to put it on right at the beginning of the neck build, and that way our veneer will come up the headstock and just completely flatten off with the neck rather than adding the piece in and filing through. We won't have a slot for the nut at that point between our headstock veneer, but I'm just going to have to do some really good calculating and measuring and make sure that headstock veneer comes up to where they'll not either be covering it or there'll just be a tiny bit of that
headstock veneer end grain showing behind the nut. And say we get to there, we can always just take our truss rod cover and sand that to the angle to meet whatever we're at. So I want to get that going. And we will, since we've got our truss rod home now. We can go ahead and cut the sides off of that neck and trim a basic outline of our headstock and glue some headstock veneer on and still let that baby sit for a while. After that, we'll have our hands full with some of this body work, and then we'll get to carving that neck too. So that's kind of what we're going to do here. We do a little down the road, we are going to do some pretty detailed inlays on this guy. We know what it's going to be, and we'll get into that when the time is right. But we have time to decide on our scale length, and then we'll start doing some inlays. It's going to be a fun one. So let's go make a center block, and we'll go from there and see what we can do for the rest of this episode. All right.
After we changed our minds about using our first center block that we made, we went ahead and grabbed this piece. This was you can see it was cut off the neck area of one of the ES335 blanks, and it's given us a little bit better of a little larger rectangle to work with. You can see me flipping that over a lot. The spindle sanders have a tendency not to sand square, but if you flip it a lot, it really does help with that. I thought I was just going to round the back of that off and just kind of do the best I did, but after we do some measuring here, we're going to do some final positioning, center line right there, mark up, and then mark where our bridge posts are going to be there. And we realized, that's a little big. We can tone that down a little, so we're going to tone that down to 5 centimeters. And we're just going to go ahead and knock that chunk off. Again, I just had so much work going on today. I was like, I don't want to fire up the bandsaw and make a bunch of sawdust everywhere. So I did a lot of hand work today on all these things. Could have just zipped it through, but hey, it's nice to work without a mask on all the time. And here we go. Let's do some final little cut up there. And we've got to make sure that stays square, and we're going to go ahead and do some final thicknessing so we made up with the body. And looks like we're about there. I've kind of been clamping things lately without pinning, and I decided on this one, I'd have to wrestle it, so we went really shallow into the koa, but we went ahead and pinned it up, and look at that. I think we'll have a pretty good lineup there. And there it is. I really did go back and forth on whether or not I was ready to glue this center block in. And I kind of thought about, hey, if I do the inside carving before it's glued, then I can, I won't have that thing to bump into. But in the end, I realized with that little mini angle grinder I use, it's just too easy to slip and slide, and I would hate to take some of the material off where we're going to glue that up. So we went ahead and did it in, and now we're going to finish up this day with some fine sand, and let's polish up the sides a little bit. And we'll explain why we're going to stop here in just a few minutes. But wow, it is really exciting to see the side of this start to come to life. And we're really making some progress on this guy, so you guys have to let me know what you think, and we'll keep doing it.
Well, here we are. I went ahead and did a tiny bit of hand sanding just because I couldn't wait to see some of that wood. And there's so much luster already developing in this koa that I can't wait to see it keep shining up. So here we are. We got our center block. We do have to level this top. It's not going to take a bunch of material off, but we'll take a little bit of work to get this guy all sized up again. But we're going to go ahead and I think we're going to go ahead and call that for the day. I've decided that I want to go ahead and carve the outside before I carve the inside. Still not 100% sure what I want to carve the back to. So I have to get a little creative, and I owned a Jag over at Mahler Up Amps. A long time ago, he said if there's anything I would ever want to expand on is some carving. And so we're going to stop at there and make that our next episode. We're going to do an episode about carving and the way I do it and some of the ways I see it. And that should be a lot of fun. So it's our next step. We'll wait to the next episode, and I think we will. We'll go ahead and wait for start some of that basic neck work until next time too. So a couple things to hit before we go. I want to go ahead and apologize to Richie Faulkner, who is not Randy Faulkner, but I made a mistake the last episode. So that Flying V is a Richie Faulkner Flying V. Floyd Rose and everything. Should be fun. I want to give a shout out to Goth Rider Creations, because when we first started doing this, he was just like, wow, that top looks like lizard skin. And I was like, wow, that is cool. So kind of in the back of my mind been calling this guitar the Lizard King. Little shout out to the Doors there. And yeah, of course, I can't help but thank Todd, good friend over at Sweet Tea Guitars, for recommending the Pika Dry Marker. No looking back now. I actually went ahead and opted for white lead, and it kind of got me. I was laughing at myself. We glued the center block in, and I was just like, man, why is some of this glue not cleaning up? And I was like, oh, it's my white pencil mark. So we'll have to sand that out when we get there. But yeah, I don't know about you guys, but I think we're turning out pretty good. Yeah, this side is really starting to look nice. I'm digging it. Again, we got some touch-up spots, but nothing too crazy. And yeah, so I guess we'll go ahead. A couple of those touch-up spots we will hit before we start the carve. But that can be some light little prep for next episode. I really thank you guys for tuning in. And yeah, one more thing I wanted to mention is I don't have it out. It's all stacked up now. But we cut out our piece of koa with a coping saw. How crazy, right? As you guys can tell, I've had building a workshop in the backyard and the plans for about a year now, and one of these days it's gonna happen. So I guess you guys can guess the first new machine that will be in the shop, and yep, that'll be a scroll saw. So definitely take some legwork out of that. But the outside of this koa we were able to save for a whole another middle slab for a whole another guitar. So man, yeah, just gonna keep rethinking on this reuse thing, and we're gonna be not even maybe a half inch bigger in diameter, which won't be the end of the world. It won't be jumbo crazy. So every regular size guitar we build with a decent enough blank, we're going to be able to build a guitar that's about half inches bigger. So from this, we'll be going to, you know what? Yeah, it was actually, I think this guitar was about 14, and our outer edge was just about 14 and a half. So we just kind of lucked out the way this angled that we were able to get that extra little bit out of there. And yeah, every blank I have is not the same, so it's not going to happen every time, but we're going to definitely dig the recycle thing. So until we see you guys next time, cheers, and I hope everyone's doing great, and I appreciate you watching. And stay tuned, and we'll see this guy come together. I've already thought of a couple of new problems, but I think we'll have good answers. So we'll see you guys next episode. All right, cheers.